I thought, well, let's look at some reasoning behind it. You talk to people, and as you talk to them, you wonder why they don't get it, or why they won't talk to you about it. I mean, they'll go to church, but when you open the Bible, they don't want to talk about the Bible, and they don't want to talk about church. And they get invited to the church, to the Bible study, and I mean, it ain't going to hurt them. They'd leave their Bible study or their church for 1 week to go on vacation or anywhere else. So if they got invited to come to your assembly, if they're your friends, why wouldn't they come? Well, there's a spirit involved in this. And this spirit forbids them, in a sense, if I can show you some things. But there is a spirit of deceit that we want to talk about, and it's very deadly. So in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, now obviously, why wouldn't you want to be forgiven of all sins? Wouldn't that be great? Well, we are. But you say to that people, would it be great? Why would you want to fight against the fact that you're totally forgiven? Well, it can't be that easy. Well, the simplicity is that's what that's about. So in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, for the mystery of iniquity doth already work, only he who now letteth will let until he be taken out of the way. And then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan with all power and signs and lying wonders, and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because. Now, they're not just perishing because they're sinners. They're not perishing because they're carnal and wicked and whatever. That's not what that's talking about. He said, with all deceivableness and unrighteousness in them that perish, because. All right? Is because going to tell us the reason. Okay? Because they received not the love of the truth that they might be saved. Now, we talked about the ED on received. So if they received not, there was a time when they could. Now, there's something that the devil always tries to convince you. If you have a problem, and every human in this room has a problem that's specific to you. You have a weakness. And if you do that weakness, if you look at the teaching of the world, it always makes you feel condemned. It makes you feel like you're an outcast in the eyes of God. And that weakness is very tempting all the time. And so you get to thinking that there just ain't no time left to change it. That's what the devil wants you to know. He wants you to think it's too late. Just go ahead. Just ain't nothing you can do. God, he's going to get you for it anyway. And that's not what is true. Today, if you're alive and you have a weakness and you are going to try to overcome it, well, start trying. It's not too late. You're breathing. Now, the situation here is, would there be a time come when they can't receive it anymore? That's what it's talking about. Because they received not the love of the truth that they might be saved. So, will the love of the truth save you? That's what it says. For this cause, God shall send them strong delusion, they shall believe a lie. Well, is there a second chance then after that you can't receive it anymore? No. That's what it says. He's talking about that movie. I was talking about that. She said, I got all the books and all the movie on that. And she said, I just saw, that's a farce. Now, folks, if you're left behind, and you've heard the love of the and you didn't receive it, because if you're left behind, you didn't. So you ain't going to get nothing but deception by God this time. Right? With all deceivableness and unrighteousness in them that perish, because they received not the love of the truth, they might be saved. And for this, send them what? That they should believe a... Now, that's not in this age. This dispensation, the will of God is what? It's not right now. But there's a time coming when He will send strong delusion, right? Why? Because they received not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. Is that not what the verse says? Okay? That they all who believed not the truth, but had, here's the key, pleasure in what? Let's check something out. Now, I want to ask you something. Does religion make you happy? Are you kidding me? Does religion make you happy? It does. Happiness is not truth. You're missing what I just asked you. The Pentecostals all the time jumping around laughing and kicking up. Why did you walk the aisle? To feel better, make you happy. I questioned that when I was a boy. Why did I walk that when I was 13? Because I was sitting there going, no, I don't want to do that. No, I got up, I did it. Hello, it was great. Well, then if happiness like that is true, I got saved when I walked the aisle. Does religion make you happy? Yes, it does. Well, then there's pleasure in... Say it again. There's pleasure in unrighteousness. Well, let's check something out here. Look in Ephesians chapter 2. I wasn't trying to trick you. You just didn't know what to say, did you? Ephesians chapter 2, verse 1. Now, I want you to think what's being said here. Verse 1. And you, as he quickened, who were dead in trespasses and sin, wherein in time past you walked according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, the spirit that now worketh in the children of disobedience. Is there a spirit working in the children of disobedience? On whom also we had our conversation in times past, in the lust of our flesh. Does the we include Paul? Okay. Fulfilling what? And were by nature the children of wrath, even as others. Desires. What does desire want to bring? Happiness. Right? I can attest to a person that was married 20 years ago, who's passed on now. That person was only happy when she was getting what she wanted. Spent a lot of money, did a lot of things. When things weren't going that way, she's terribly unhappy. You understand what I'm saying, folks? The desires of the flesh is to make the flesh happy. So, wouldn't religion be designed to make you happy? And it'd be according to your heart's desire. Are you with me so far? Turn to 1 Timothy chapter 1. Do you think Paul, Saul of Tarsus, let's say, was happy to have that letter in his pocket? Well, of course he was. He desired the letter. Did he not desire that letter to persecute people that were going against his religion? 1 Timothy 1:13, who was before a blasphemer and a persecutor and injurious, but obtained mercy because he did it ignorantly in unbelief. Can you be happy in unbelief and be ignorant? Okay. Turn with me to the book of Philippians. We're going to a lot of verses today, so get your fingers wet. Philippians chapter 3, verse 4. He said, though I might also have confidence in the flesh. Any man thinketh he hath where he might trust in the flesh, I more. Circumcised the 8th day. Would he have been happy to announce that as he got older? When he announces that he was circumcised the 8th day, what does that mean in accordance to his relationship to the tribes of Israel? He's part of them, not cut off. Right? When you have to leave a church, your flesh is sad. What do you think about that? Because it means that you're going to get refused, you're going to get rebuked, you're going to get made shameful, There's all kinds of things going on there, and that's not what the flesh wants, is it? They like a pat on the back. Okay? It'd be like going to a hunting club and they tell you you can't kill a buck, and the first thing you do, you kill a button buck and didn't know he was a button buck. And they say that'll be a $100 fine. All of a sudden the flesh was carrying out a deer, it was happy, and now it's not happy because he's got to fork out a $100 bill. I just brought that up because of hunting season coming up. Okay? Now, you figure two football teams that are fixing to play are happy, both sides? Until they play. Now, folks, we got two undefeated teams going to play next week, and when the game's over, somebody's going to be defeated. Then there's going to be a happy side and there's going to be a sad side, right? Why are they sad? Because they lost. Okay? Verse 5, circumcised the 8th day of the stock of Israel, of the tribe of Benjamin, a Hebrew of the Hebrews, a touching in the law of Pharisee. Concerning zeal, persecuting the church, touching the righteousness which in the law, blameless. Was Paul sad that he was, Saul sad that he was persecuting the church? No! Did he put it in the same relationship as touching the righteousness which is in the law, blameless? Did he see anything wrong with persecuting the church? No. Well, I got to ask you a question. He said, we, concerning the lust of the flesh in Ephesians, right? He included himself, right? Then was Saul's pleasure in sinning? Did I miss you? Was Saul's pleasure in sinning? That's what people think pleasure's about. I'm not going any further yet. Is the preaching today the basis of if you're in lust, it must be sinning. Like smoking, drinking, cussing, and all those things. Did Paul say, when he wrote, as when he was Saul, was his conversation in the lusts of the flesh? Okay? So if his lusts were in the flesh, you figure, if it's according to what's preached today, Paul was doing some sinning. Yet Saul, when Paul talks about it, as touching the righteousness which is in the law, blameless. Now do you see what I'm talking about? The lust of the flesh, is that sinning? Or is it in unrighteousness? Now tell me what the problem with all men is. What's the matter with all men? There is none righteous. No, not one. Right? And if we had our lust of the flesh conversation and of course this world, it was in unrighteousness, because if there's none righteous, if there is mankind, they're what? Unrighteousness. Then the lust of the flesh, Paul's not talking about the sins of the flesh, because the lust of the flesh is trying to prove to God he's worthy of what God ought to give him. He said, if you think you got confidence in the flesh, I'm more. I didn't go to the bar, I didn't drink, I didn't do that. That's not what he said. Circumcised the 8th day of the tribe of Benjamin, of the whatever, of the Hebrews, the Hebrew of the Hebrews, and on and on. He was talking about religion. His presentation to God was what? Religion. Not that he wasn't a smoker, a drinker, a dancer, a card player, which is preached on all the time. That's not what he was presenting. He said, The only thing I could have presented to God was those things, and He said, that's done. The greatest thing that mankind does is done. The Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, Tuesday night, and Thursday night is done. If it's done in unrighteousness. So tell me, does religion make you happy? Yeah. Is it the lust of the flesh? Yeah. Was Saul's pleasure? It wasn't in sinning. It was in, as touching the righteous law, blameless. And he said all of that, he was deceived. In Jeremiah 17:9, the Bible says the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? Look in Colossians chapter 1. The only way you can get somebody to walk an aisle, you can't get people to walk the aisle on Acts chapter 2, verse 38, because they're really not strict about killing the Lord. I mean, that's 2,000 years ago. I didn't kill the Lord. That's like, I didn't cause integration segregation. That was before my time, folks. I'm not guilty of that. I'm not a racist. I don't care. But you're preaching and harping on that you are that. I ain't either. That ain't me. Folks, if you work beside me, I don't care what color you are, you got the same right to the same you do the job. I don't care. That don't make no difference to me whatsoever. And I don't care where you live. Folks, I live right in the middle. I don't care a bit. You know why? Everybody's got a right. You say, I don't think that. Yes, everybody's got a right. And there's a real confusion that the devil's brought forth. It is not about the color of your skin. It's about blood. And I got news for you. In Acts, every man's blood is the same. It's sinful. And you know who Jesus Christ died for? He died for all men. That's a ploy of the devil. That's a ploy of the devil. Got the government behind it and everything else. It's always been that way. And man, I'm telling you, people don't listen to the Bible about it. Got their own opinions. Well, I got my opinions too, and they don't mean squat either. Look at Colossians chapter 1, verse 21. If you were guilty of a sin, and I got up here and preached on that sin, then you get thinking about that sin, wouldn't you? Huh? You'd get thinking about your sin and say, well, how do you know what I did this week? I didn't. But I ain't preaching on your sin. Now watch. Colossians 1:21, and you that were sometimes alienating enemies in your mind by what? Wicked works. Yet now hath he reconciled. Did the wicked works that you do that were in your mind stop God from reconciling you? Isn't that amazing? It didn't stop God from reconciling you. Isn't it amazing? On the road to Damascus, there was a man named Saul of Tarsus. This man is injurious, blasphemer, and wastes the church. That means he'd have them killed if possible. And God reconciled him. And you guys, somebody tells you, I just don't think God can take care of what I've done. Really? Have you wasted the church? You know what they're talking about? Well, I've committed adultery, I've murdered, or I've drank, or I've been a drug user, or whatever else. You know, you're going to have a hard time showing me in the Bible that God didn't reconcile that. How did God reconcile? Would verse 22 prove to you what he did? What did he do in verse 22? Let's go to 21. The end of 21, yet now hath. Are you with me? Yet now hath. What does that mean to you? Yet now hath reconciled in the body of his flesh. God made his Son be what you did and are. You got in the closet lately and thank God for that and thought about that and really meditate on that, what Jesus Christ really became and what he died for and what he really did for you, and then let you know that He forgave you? Folks, in all essence, He forgave you for what He had to do to His Son for you. Did you all go to sleep? He forgave you for what His Son became for you. That means that everything you do in your life, He knew. That could be a big pile, couldn't it? I know a man one time says you keep sinning while you're saved and the pile builds up and finally God kills you because your pile's too big. You think I'm kidding? And the guy's alive right now, and I know him. He believes that. I'm curious why he's still alive. Because his pile's pretty big. Now, so, can we agree? Does religion make one happy? Yes. Why? It soothes your conscience. That's why you begin in religion. That's why you keep on in religion. You can rededicate, you can confess, or you can walk the aisle. You can make somebody happy, or you can make yourself happy, and you be happy for a while. It doesn't mean a continual happiness, but there's happiness in it. And boy, you get happy when you rededicate. And all that. And the more you do for the church, the happier you are because you think it makes a closer relationship for you and the Lord. Then we find out that this man Saul was happy in his religion. There, folks, when the Lord appeared to him on the road to Damascus, Saul was not an unhappy camper. He was happy. He had a letter in his pocket, and he, according to what he said he made much in his religion. He profited in his religion. He's happy about that. And when, after the Lord appeared to Saul and he became Paul, his profiting went down. People say when you get saved, then you ought to make a lot more money and do a lot more things. How come Saul, our pattern, kept going downhill? Say, well, I don't know. Well, you better know the God of this world. Okay? And Paul's a definite enemy of the God of this world. So, look in Romans 10. Now, is there zeal in this unhappiness, in this happiness of unrighteousness? Absolutely. Look in Romans chapter 10, verse 1. My heart's desire and prayer to God for Israel might be saved. And that prayer about them and to God for them would mean that if they turn to the Lord like they should, they're going to be in the same situation that Paul is. Do you ever read where it says, are you familiar with what, let's see, there's a couple of verses I had in mind. Wow, I can't see it. Not only give and have to believe on Him, but to suffer for Christ's sake. Anybody know that verse? Just went like that. First Corinthians 11, he follows to me. 1 Corinthians 4:16b, he follows to me. And then he says, not only give and have to believe on Him, but to suffer for His sake. Why? I can't think of that. Philippians chapter 1, that's it. Every once in a while I get a brain blip. Philippians chapter 1, verse 29, for unto you it is given on behalf of Christ not only to believe on Him. Well, that's great. I get to believe on the Lord. I'm an alien, stranger from the covenant promise, and now I get a chance to believe on the Lord. The last part of the verse. But also to what? Having the same conflict. Have you sat down and studied the conflict that began with Saul once the separation begins in Acts 13 and what the devil actually begins to do against Saul, or Paul, in his trying to present the ministry? Having the same conflict which you saw in me and now to here to be in me. You ought to sit down and read the 13 letters and watch the conflict that this man Paul had from the God of this world. All right, back in Romans 10 then, verse 2, For I bear them record they have a zeal of God, but not according to knowledge. All right, we call that zeal without knowledge. That's what a young saved person usually is. He'll jump hell with a water bucket. He has zeal without knowledge. But then when he gets to the witnessing and starts finding out, they don't want what he's so happy about. The happy people don't want his happiness. Isn't it amazing? You thought everybody believed, didn't you? Boy, the day you got saved, you went out there and you, hey, I want to tell you a good news. You're just bubbling with it. And they look at you and go, you're crazy. I got to go to my church. I remember that preacher out there at Mrs. Bearden's daughter's funeral stood out there in the parking lot and he said, did I hear you say that Jesus Christ's soul went into hell? I said, yeah, you heard me. Let's read it. And so I opened the Bible in their parking lot and he's looking around like, and I made him read it. And I read it to him. And he said, well, I don't know about that. I need to talk to my preacher about that. And I said, forget your preacher. Let's read it again. And he said, well, I don't know what you're saying, but my Jesus didn't go to hell. I said, you don't have the right Jesus. Mossy back deacon. Same mossy type of mossy back deacons. If you ask them why Jesus got baptized, well, I will tell you, wash away his sins. They do that. Same mossy back deacon, hire and fire the preacher. Ain't got no right. Leon can't hire and fire me. Harold can't hire and fire me. Folks, I ain't for hire or for sale. The church is so mixed up, they don't even know where they're at. Watch. Have a zeal of God, but not according to knowledge, for they be ignorant of whose righteousness. Go out this week. Satisfy your conscience on this. Ask somebody, what is God's righteousness in the Bible about? See if they'll take you to Romans. See if they'll show you that somebody else represented the righteousness of God, and that faith was good enough for you. See if they'll do it. For they being ignorant of God's right, going about to establish their own righteousness. They were happy in trying to establish their own righteousness? Well, of course they were. You think you got confidence in the flesh? I'm more. Why would they call the uncircumcision uncircumcision? Ephesians chapter 2, wherefore remember that you, being in time past uncircumcised in the flesh, being called that by the circumcision which is in the flesh. Why would they be going around, you're uncircumcised? Oh, you're from that church over there in Old Landline. That church. Yeah, what do you know about that church? Well, I heard they're that kind. What's that kind? Well, they believe they're forgiven, and they believe they're the only right ones, and everybody else is wrong. Well, the Bible's right, and we're all wrong. They're that kind. You got to stay away from them places. They don't even sing. And that preacher don't even pray out loud. And they just wander around with their food. Yes? And they don't dress right. And some of them people got sandals on and shorts. And the preacher was out one Sunday mowing. Because he got there Saturday, too late to do it. Yeah. I've got a dog in Panama City that sleeps on the table. Mona, when I get to preach, she just lays out. Well, I don't care about dogs, folks. I got a killer over at the house. Cougar will kill you. No. All right. Now watch. They have not submitted themselves unto the righteousness of God, for Christ is the end of the law for righteousness to everyone who believes. I guarantee you, a happy Christian said, you can't live without keeping the commandments. I'm happy I ain't under the commandments, for it would doom and damn me, folks. All right? So there's a zeal of God. Do they talk about God? Now understand, the verse said, in verse 2, they have a zeal of God. That means their attention is about God. All right? They talk about God. They study about God. They went in the synagogues at this time and would read the Scripture. And he told them, he said, you go back and search the Scriptures, for in them they are they that testify of me, but you will not come unto me. Okay? So they talk of God. They study about God. Do they work for God? How about it, Catherine? Most religions find out what you can do, and buddy, you're on the way. Right? And they give to God. And sometimes not cheerfully, because the plate may be passed twice. Right? Okay? Look with me in 1 Timothy 4. Are you all right? Everybody okay? 1 Timothy 4. I'd rather be of that kind than the wrong kind. Somebody said, your preacher's a nut, screwed on the right boat. Well, you can't be. 1 Timothy 4:1, now the Spirit speaketh expressly that in latter time some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils, speaking lies and hypocrisy, having their conscience seared with a hot iron, forbidding to marry, and commanding to abstain from meats, which God hath created to be received with thanksgiving of them which believe and know the truth. All right? Turn to 2 Timothy chapter 3. Now that was latter times. Now in 2 Timothy chapter 3 verse 1, this know also that in the last days, I mean now he's zeroed in on something. Perilous times shall come. For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, truth-bearers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those who are good. That's Washington, D.C. But this is a church. Did you know this is a church? Now watch. Traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasure more than lovers of God. Is it more important to have a gym in a church than a King James Bible? Is it more important to have 45 minutes of song service than 45 minutes of Bible study? Is it more important to have social activities and sharing than actually preaching the Word? Yesterday at the soccer is always, these people are going to share with you. Share what? I didn't know what they had. It was the Youth for Christ. And not one of them mentioned Christ. Then how could they be youth for Christ? Well, if I'm going to share with you, I'm going to share with the fact that Jesus Christ died for your sins. He was buried, rose again the third day. God satisfied. That's how He showed His righteousness and love to you. He let somebody else become sin for you, that you might be made the righteousness of God in Him. God Almighty loved you enough to let His Son die for you. Do you think when that time when He'd give that love out by grace, when it's over, do you think He'll be happy with you if you didn't want it? I was picking up a load of wood this Tuesday. I get a load of wood every Tuesday in the back of my truck for the cold winter. And this man I've been dealing with over in Highland Home, he's about 80 years old, and he's pretty rough looking. I think he's about on his way to leg out, maybe. And I talked to him about the Lord, and he wasn't a bit interested. Now, folks, I thought I was leaving this world, and we can at any minute, but if I thought I was leaving, I'd want to get something right, wouldn't you? I mean, I'd consider the fact, if there's a God, what's He going to do to me? If there's a hell, am I going there? Is there a heaven? Can I go there? Wouldn't I consider something? You know why He doesn't? Because He's heard so much religion go afoul that He don't want nothing to do with it. Now, He said, verse 5, having a form of what? Well, then we're talking about religious people. We're talking about religious preachers. But denying what? The power thereof, from such turn away. Oh my goodness. Now watch with me. 2 Corinthians chapter 2. 2 Corinthians chapter 2. Is everybody all right? 2 Corinthians chapter 2. Verse 11. Paul said, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. So there's devices, right? Turn to 2 Corinthians chapter 4. I told them in Panama, one of the ways that Satan works is to muzzle the ox that treads out the corn. We were dealing with them on it. I hated to, but Paul preaches more on giving than he does anything else. It's amazing. 2 Corinthians, the whole book almost is about it. But that's not what I'm talking about here. In 2 Corinthians 4:3, but if our gospel be hid to them lost. There's got to be some way to hide the gospel, don't they? Why? Cannot anybody open the Bible to 1 Corinthians 15? But if that's hid, that's not where you'd go to get the gospel. Okay? Our gospel be hid to them lost, in whom the God of the world has blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the glorious gospel of Christ, who is the image of God, should shine unto them. Verse 7, but we have this treasure in what? Now go back to verse 4, the word in whom. In whom represents somebody has something in them that has caused them not to see the gospel. It's a blinding. There's something in them causes a blinding, right? In medical, a lot of times what can get in you that will kill you? Cancer. Is the cancer outside or inside? You don't even know you have it. A lot of times, until you absolutely are about to die with it, sometimes you never even know it. Okay, the same with heart disease. You don't know your arteries are fixing to blow up until they do. Right? So it's in you. So you can be walking around happy, not knowing you're fixing to get it, right? You could be in your brand new automobile, happy as a lark, not knowing that coming around the curve is a log truck on your side of the road. And he's fixing to end your life, and you were happy to that point. Right? So, is it possible to be happy on the verge of death? Okay. The wages of sin is death, not sins. God made His Son to be sin for us. So, what was fixing to happen to Jesus Christ? He was about to die, right? Okay? Then, verse 4, in whom the... So, now I know that there's somebody. Now I know the power. Who is it? The God of this world. And what did He do? Hath blinded. Right? Now listen, folks. This has to be an acknowledgeable thing. Children don't know nothing about either way. Right? So they come to a point, oh, here's a dandy. Train up a child in the way he should go. And when he's old, he'll not depart. All religions say, give us your children up to 5, and they'll remember what we taught them. So what would be good for your child? To hear the happy religion or the truth? I wish I'd have never heard anything. I'd never walked out. They'd have forced me down the aisle if I'd known the truth. I made my mama happy. My mama cried. She thought that would settle my life. described later on. Well, so in whom? Turn to 2 Corinthians 11. So if you deal with somebody and they say, no, or they claim to be very religious, but when you talk about the Bible, open the Bible, they don't want it. Why is that? Something has blinded them. Okay? 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 3, but I fear lest by any means as a serpent beguile thee through his subtlety, so your mind should be corrupted from the simplicity that's in Christ. For if he that cometh preach another Jesus, whom we have not preached, or if you receive another spirit which you have not received, or another gospel which you have not accepted, you might well bear with him. In other words, stand up against him. Obviously, the person that would stand up against him would be a saved person. So this is talking about a saved person being corrupted from the what in verse 3, the end of the verse. The simplicity of Christ. So is Christ what he did simple? It scares you to death after you get saved of how you missed it that long. Because it's so simple. You go, how did I miss that? Because you was blinded. You think I'm kidding? Look at Acts 26. You take a child that's never been introduced to religion, and when the time comes, he ain't got no problem with it. You show him the truth, and it's like, what? You take a child that's been in religion, you try to talk to him, he's going to go right back to his mom and dad, or his grandma and grandpa, and his church. Okay? Acts 26. Verse 16, but rise, stand upon thy feet, for I have appeared unto thee for this purpose, to make thee a minister and a witness, both of these things which thou hast seen, and of those things in which I will appear unto thee, delivering thee from the people, from the Gentiles unto whom now I send thee. There is absolutely no doubt about these three verses. They have to be in accordance with the only way that verse 18 will work is verse 17 and verse 16, why the Lord appeared to Saul, why he showed Paul what he did, and why he sent them to him, verse 18, to open their eyes, turn them from darkness to light, then they've been blinded. They've been blinded. And from the power of who? Then he's the one of 2 Corinthians 4. He's the one of 2 Corinthians 11. So the spirit of deceit is based on him. Now, does he then have blinding power? Turn to 2 Corinthians again, chapter 11. Now, you think that you can turn the blinding power of Satan away with religion? That's what gave it to you. When Paul said, I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, for it is the power. The power to open people's eyes depends strictly on the Word of God and the gospel He gave. You think you can teach them? You can't teach that man that's blinded. He's still blinded. Now watch, 2 Corinthians 11:14. And no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into what? How is it possible that his light wouldn't open their eyes? Well, just tell me something. Can light open up or blind? It can work either way. What did the light of the Lord do to Saul on the road to Damascus? Okay? What did the gospel do to Saul of Tarsus? It opened his eyes. Hello. You know, people wonder why babies cry when they come out. 50 million candle watts. He's been in a total dark environment, and all of a sudden he comes out into a world of hurt. It's cold. I mean, the room in there is freezing. He comes out, and it's, yeah! What is that? Oh, my God! And God was merciful to a baby. They can't see very good. No wonder. We blind them the minute they come out. And he's screaming. Sometimes. Sometimes they have to slap them because they're already passed out from it. The doctor slapped my mama. Didn't slap at me, he slapped at my mama. My sister said, put it back, put it back. 2 Corinthians 11, is it no marvel Satan himself is transformed into what? That's the blind people. Folks, his doctrine is not that it's not words about God. It is. The doctrine of Satan is about God. But what it's trying to do is to get God to look in their eyes different than He really is. Yea, hath God said. Remember? In Genesis 3. Yea, hath God said. Now watch, 15. Therefore is no great thing of His. Oh my goodness, what does He have? Ministers. Now, if you go back to 2 Corinthians chapter 2, you don't have to, but does He have devices? Let's check something. Look with me in verse 3 again. But I fear lest by any means the serpent beguiled. Is there a beguiling thing? That beguiling comes from the subtleness of this individual. And he's very subtle. He deals underhandedly. He deals with the Word of God, but not exactly the Word of God. And in this thing, it's another spirit. He deals with a person's mind. Folks, that's why preachers that have a psychological degree are very, very good at what they do. It's a mind game. They deal with people's minds. Okay? Can he send, I don't know how to say this. Matthew 4. Look with me, Matthew 4. Hold on to, no, you don't have to. I'll go to Galatians just a minute. Look at Matthew 4. This would be a good thought. In Matthew 4, the Lord is actually sent out into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil. I mean, this is a direct confrontation between the Son of God and the devil. And in Matthew chapter 4, verse 3, and when the tempter came to him, he said, if thou be the Son of God, question, command that these stones be made bread. All right? So here he's arguing with the Lord. If you're the Son of God. You know, on the cross, they said, if you're the Son of God, get down. Who would be leading them to say that? The devil. Okay? Now, in verse 5, the devil take him up into a holy city. Okay? Then he's able to transport. I've thought about this so many times. Why did your preacher move to another church? He's able to move them. Now, if that preacher deceived them there, what would he do on the next one? And the next one. But he'd get more money for it. Which is 1 Timothy 6. Hold there just a minute. 1 Timothy 6. You know, people say, well, that preacher's really making a lot of money. He must be of God. 1 Timothy chapter 6. Verse 5. Perverse the disputing of men of corrupt mind and destitute of the truth, supposing that gain is what? Godliness. From such withdraw thyself. For why? But godliness with contentment is great gain. In accordance with the world religion, what should I do here at this church? I should go to a bigger one. Right? Why would I do that? Me and Mark were back there looking, and the deposits were less than the bills. Somehow it doesn't bother me. You know why? God is able. And that's totally up to you guys. I mean, you ought to have the conviction in your heart about that. But I thought, what difference does it make? Somebody's worried about money here, money there. Folks, money is nothing. It's just a means of doing whatever you do. But do you think you're secure in it? When do you think your security may leave one of these days? What if they decide to go global money? What if they decide to have no paper money at all, and it's strictly going to be internet or computer? You better get your trust out of it, I'm telling you right now. It ain't going to say, well, I got something. Well, be glad. But don't love it because it'll go. Every 15th of April does more of it fly off. If they had their way. I was telling somebody one day, did you know that George Harrison wrote that song, The Tax Man? They lived in Britain at that time. You know how much his tax percentage was? 90%. They moved to America, it was 30. And he said, the tax man. They wrote that song, The Tax Man. 90% of his money went to the government, to the Queen. That's what the Lord told him would happen when you get a king or a queen. She gets your money. Well, in 1 Timothy, did they believe that great gain was godliness? But he said, but godliness with contentment is great gain. We brought nothing into this world, and certainly we carry nothing out. Having food and raiment, let us therewith be content. Be therewith content. Do I get everybody hear that? Whew, are you dead? I didn't hear but one or two. You agree to that? Ain't your book. You know whose book this is? 1 Timothy. It's mine. Then you know what? If I'm content, I'll be happy when you walk in the door. Somebody asked me how I was doing today. I said, I'm finer than a frog here. You know why? I ain't got a whole lot to lose. I don't own anything, so why do I didn't sell out of choice. I'm not in Matthew 24. I just don't have a lot to lose. You know why? I don't have a lot. And I'm happy about it. You know why? Because you don't either. You might think you do, but you don't. The tax man does. Oh. So, look in Galatians chapter 1. I apologize. One more time in Matthew 4. So can the devil transport? Can he, in verse 8, Matthew 4:8, again the devil take him up into exceeding high mountain, can he put him up and let him see all the kingdoms? And can he give them to him? Verse 9, and he saith to him, all these things will I give thee. What does he have? He has the kingdoms. Hello? What does he have? And if you put your stock in the kingdoms, whose are they? They're the devil's. And the only way he'll give them to you is what? So how come big churches are doing so good? Galatians chapter 1. Galatians chapter 1. It's hard to convince a man to come to your assembly when it's real small and theirs is real big. They say, hey, you guys don't have nothing. You don't even have enough to sing anyway. Yeah, but we got your Baptist piano player. I love kidding Catherine. Prayed for Catherine so many years. Galatians chapter 1, verse 8. But though we are an angel, can the devil send an angel? Yes, he can. Look with me in Galatians 3. Can he bewitch you? Galatians 3:1, old Galatians, who hath bewitched you? Oh, he can bewitch. All right. Can he use words, eyesight, and weaker vessels to change or convince? Now, I want you to think about something. In Genesis 3, he convinced somebody to have somebody else do what they did wrong. She handed it to him. You kind of like that commercial. You know, I think this is ruined. Try this. Boy, this is bad. Try this and see if it's bad. Hey, do you think this milk is sour? So you hand it to Mom. Can you smell it? Try it and see if it's bad. Well, why do you want her to try it and see if it's bad? We had something the other day, and I took a bite of it, but Kathy didn't know I took a bite of it. I said, "Here, try it." I done took a bite of it. She said, "What do you want me to take a bite of it? It might be bad." I said, "I've already took a bite of it. I just fooling." It's like, well, did she eat? Was she in disobedience? Did she follow what? Did he go to her? Weaker vessel? And the weaker vessel then convinced somebody else to take. The weaker vessels also are based on the fact that someone in religion convinces somebody, and you know what's amazing? They can invite them to their churches and they'll come. You invite them, they won't come. Don't tell me they ain't a spirit working. There's that spirit tell them, don't go there. Ooh, don't go there. That's that church. You come out there a zombie. You come out, I'm a grace believer. I'm a grace believer. You'll be a zombie. They'll mind zap you. And you'll think you're saved. And you'll think you're already forgiven. And you won't have to confess your sin. Don't go there. Amen. Well then, 2 Timothy chapter 2. Second Timothy chapter 2, verse 26. And that they may recover themselves out of the snare of the devil. You know, Peter was told by the Lord, he said, you better be careful. The devil can sift you like wheat. He can take all and sift. You know, when you sift something like flour, you're trying to get the best part through and keep the grains and the rocks or whatever else that was in the wheel there in the screen, so you've sifted it down into where it's a real fine powder. The devil, in his sifting, takes all the good stuff out and leaves the bad. Sift you like wheat. In 1 Timothy, we read that he can make people think great gain is godliness. He can take in Romans chapter 11 and make a table a snare. That's a sacrificial table. That's like the Lord's Supper. It becomes a snare. He can make people think they're in the house of God, and there's two verses, Acts 7:48 and Acts 17:24, that tells you the Most High dwells not in temples made with hands. And you deal with people on that, and they say, oh, my church is the house of God, and it's beautiful. Really. In Acts 17, he can make skin the cause of sin because of, again, that integration, segregation, when it's all in the blood, folks. Blood is what causes sin. And then, in Acts 17, he can make people think that idols are the way to worship God. I mean, the biggest religion in America follows the Lord, they say, in idols, statues, and engravings. Now, watch one more time. And you don't have to turn it. 2 Corinthians 11, he wants to corrupt this simplicity. The spirit of deceit. You're trying to show them one simple fact. Christ died for their sins. He was buried and He rose again the third day and God's satisfied. It can't be that simple is always the answer. That they have been corrupted. They have been deceived. They have been blinded. They do not receive the love of the truth. Is there a day when they'll pay for that? Don't give up because somebody didn't listen. Go to someone else. Don't give up inviting just because somebody knows, well, ain't nobody going to come on and try to invite them. They won't come. The devil's got you. That's a deceit. Somebody will come one of these days, and you'll be as happy as a lark because they might get saved. I appreciate it.